Alright, so today we're going to build a glider just off the top of my head. So we're going to cut the wings first. So I'm going with a 6-inch width of a wing for this glider, and there'll be two 30-inch halves. So we'll mark 6, 6, and then 6 and 6, and that'll leave just enough for the fuselage left on this sheet. Maybe the tail, I'm not sure yet. We'll figure that out here in a little bit. That doesn't look right. No, that's right. Okay. Ruler moved. Alright. So we can cut those off right now just to make more room on the table. So that'll give us a 60-inch wing at 6 inches in width. And I think we'll curve the front of it, just a little bit. That way it has a little curve to it. A little bit of an airfoil. Those will be the wing halves. We'll make the fuselage out of this. I'm going to do a real basic, real simple one. So we want the sides to be, I'm going to go with 1.5 inches. The width will go 2 inches in width. So 1, 2, no. That's too wide. Let's just go probably 1.75 inches in width. That'll give me enough room. I have micro servos, so I'm not too worried about it. So we'll go 1.75 inches and another 1.5 inches on this side. I usually try to make the same lines down here. Let's see, our wing is 6 inches. We know we need at least 3 for the battery, but I'd say let's put 4 inches of hatch space. So that'll basically be your first bulkhead. So how I know that is this battery right here. Even though I'm not going to use this big one, but it's still going to be a 2-cell to run the power in the glider. If that fits, I know anything will fit. So then we'll come back 6 inches. Yeah, we'll put our wing there, so 6 inches. So that's our wing width. 6 inches. And do your 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, and 1.5 inches. It's actually kind of wide Probably should have just did 1 3/4 all the way around, but that's alright. I always come back here and do the lines again. 1.5 inches, 1 3/4, 1.5 inches. There. So this is our fuse side. That's going to be the top half. So we're going to bring it down back here. I would say probably bring it down to about 1/2 inch at the rear of the plane. So I don't know how long I want this. Probably about 25 inches. Maybe 23. 23 seems about. Let's go 23.5. So it's going to be 23.5 inches long. That's going to be the end, and that'll give us enough room, hopefully, to do the tail out of that part. Alright, so here we're going to bring it down to 1/2 inch. Actually, make that mark right there. And we're going to bring it down to 1/2 inch wide. Right? No, that's wrong. No, that's right. And then down to 1/2 inch here. Should have made it on the line. 1/2 inch here. So we're looking at this one upside down. Yeah, it's a little off, but you can get away with that right there. So where the X's are is where you're going to cut this section out, that section out, that section out. That way you don't cut the wrong sections out. Alright. And that's going to be the fuselage. Cut the end piece off first. We want to give it a little bit of a contour here in the front. 1 inch. like that, and this part's coming off. Still looks really wide, but that's what happens when you build out of your head, you know. So if you build one, I would go an 1.5 inches at the most width, especially since I have micro servos. Mine's a little wide, but I'd rather be too wide than not wide enough, I guess. Missed quite a bit on there. I'll get that one in a minute. Alright, since we went a little bit wide here, we're going to put our notches where we're going to carve it out on the inside. So lightly score. Lightly score, don't cut all the way through. And then come right below it, since we're taking up the room on the inside, since we're a little wide. And you want to do that 5 millimeters, 3/16 of an inch, thickness of your foam board. You want to put that groove there because you're going to carve that out so that the fuselage will fold. Take that paper out. Attempt to. We're going to carve this foam out of this groove, and then we're going to fold it. So I'm going to carve it out real quick. Be right. Alright, got them all cleaned out. Now you're going to want to score across here so that it'll fold. Then you get a nice little fuselage. It looks pretty straight. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue that, and then I think we'll cut out the tail. like to get the front half glued first, and then I come back here and I do one of these at a time, like this. There you have it. Looks pretty straight too. That's always nice. And that's your basic fuselage. Then after you get the tail and everything on, I take cardboard like this and I just cut it to fit the top. And then paint it, of course. Nice thin sturdy cardboard. That's what I use. Alright, so here we got our two scrap pieces from the wings and fuselage board. So we're going to try to do this out of one piece of foam board. So I'm going to go with a 4-inch horizontal, the width, now you can shape yours however you like. You can leave it perfectly square. And I like to use my yardstick here for my elevator width, but you can do it smaller. But on a glider, it's not a bad idea to have a pretty fat elevator and rudder, since you don't have a motor. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. And that ends up being 8 inches long, that piece of scrap. So 4 inches is going to be the center. Go ahead and mark that center line now. It's going to come in handy later. Now that doesn't look very flat. Almost. That's better. So you're going to go ahead and score your elevator. That should be a big enough one. Now if you want to round this off, your corners, go for it. See, to me that's just so much easier than trying to cut it. So we want a center line on the top too. And you see, that looks pretty proportionate, if you ask me. So that'll work. So we're going to take what's left here, and you can do whatever you want for the horizontal, the vertical. I'm going to make this shorter so I can mark it up. Now, I didn't measure any of that, but we came out about 5.5 inches tall and 4 inches here, which means it would have to sit up in front, something like that. But you can do it however you like. I just kind of go off the top of my head. That'll work. So there's our tail. Now you can either put it flat on top of here or under. You can do this part however you want. What I like to usually do is put a solid piece in between here, each side piece. That way you have a bigger platform to glue it on. But you can do it however you want. Alright, so I'm going to give my horizontal a little bit of shape. So I'm going to go 1 inch up from the hinge line of my elevator. And then to my center line. So 1 inch of it. To my center line. And that gives me my horizontal. Now, I had to sand a little bit here on the rear end of the fuselage to make sure it's perfectly level. And I got it all sanded level. Now you can put a flat piece in like that, but to save time today we're going to go ahead and just glue ours on. And what I like to do, since you have this opening back here in the back, we're going to set the elevator off far enough to where our push rod can come right out the back to the control horn. Right there. That way you don't have to come out the side. So, about that far back. But you can do this part however you want. This is just how I do it. Normally I'll put a flat piece in there, but like I said, let's just get it on here. So get that center line as center as you can, and hopefully you've already leveled it like I have. Hopefully you can see it. And that's it. And that's on there. And it's straight. Now if we could just get the neighbor's dog to quit whining. And that's it. So now you're going to want to put your micro servo in here, or you could put a 9-gram servo in here. Run your push rod straight to the back, your control horn poking through right there. That way your rod comes right out the rear end. And that's all you got to do there. Once you get that control rod hooked up, put on your vertical stabilizer and do the same thing. Put your servo in, hook it up, and then take your cardboard, lay it on here like so, and all you do is do a pencil line like that, and then take your razor blade and cut the lines to cover the top. Alright, well, I'm going to move on here, and that should be good and dry, and put my servo and my push rod in. I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. Alright, well, I glued my stabilizer on. Make sure you cut the little slit here so that your elevator doesn't hit the rudder. Go ahead and glue that on and put in your servo. Then we'll skin it, and that'll be that. Alright, well, I got my rudder servo in there, my elevator servo. I gotta slow down the travel. These are set up for a different airplane, but that ought to do it. And then I got the Spectrum Park receiver in there. Alright. There's some cardboard here. Cut it out. We'll cut a slit for the, it's a little big still. So you don't have to get it perfect, but the less the better, you know. That's better. Always helps to have a sharp razor blade. This one's not the sharpest. And you cut the slit in there like that for your rudder servo linkage. That should actually be good. If not, you know, go test it with your radio. And then all I do after I do that is glue it on. Hopefully I have enough glue in my gun. It's almost out. That'll be enough for this one anyway. That way you get an idea how I sheet my airplanes. And I'm still going to clear coat this whole fuselage with the Minwax and paint it. But that is how I do the skinning. So I'm going to do the next piece to here for the wing. I mean, the wing will go here, and then another sheet right here for the battery hatch. And then we're going to get started on the wing, which is pretty huge at the moment. All I'm going to do is put a couple slits right here in the front and just barely curve the front of the wing. Curve it just a little bit. And if your foam board's kind of bent like mine, make sure you do the bent side going up. That'll give you a little dihedral. Alright, so here I'm making a center thin basswood sheet that's going to hold the joining halves of the wings. Did that wrong. Gonna score the wood and hopefully not go all the way through. Now I think I want to go this way. Yep. We scored it like so. Now we take some thick or thin CA and we pry up on it just a little bit like that, and we glue these two cracks. That way we can glue the wings straight on there like so. And I think that'll be a really good center section for the wing. And you could also do a top piece on the wing. So that's what I'm going to do, and glue these two sections together so we have one giant wing. Alright. Well, you probably can't really tell, but I took an inch off the wing tip to taper the wing a little bit. So this is going to be the right wing, and we'll do the same thing here. This will be the left wing. So all I did is draw a 1-inch mark here. Start from there. And that's all you're removing. You're just tapering the wing a little bit. That looks good. Alright. So now we're going to mix up some epoxy, remove the paper from this end, and we're going to epoxy this. So I'm going to remove the paper and mix up the epoxy. Alright, we'll let that side dry, and then we'll get the other side on. When we put the second side on, we're going to fill this real good with epoxy. That way they sandwich together nicely. And that is how I'm doing the wing. I'm not going to give it an airfoil. I don't think it needs it. Alright, let's let her dry. Well, here it is with the wing. The wing actually turned out really nice. It's pretty sturdy, it's pretty stiff, especially after putting the clear coat on it. So now it needs a paint job in the front hatch, and she's finished. And if you want, you could put a tow hook in the bottom of it. Just make sure you glue in a piece of plywood in the bottom there with for the hook. But turned out real nice. Now let's give it a paint job. I forgot to point out, I used a piece of balsa block for my nose. So that ought to work out pretty nice, gives it a little bit of protection. And if you want to put a tow hook through that, you could drill a hole for the tow line if you're going to tow it with a model airplane, which I may do. But yeah, just the balsa block's what I put on the front end of mine. You can do whatever you want. One more real quick thing. You'll probably want to go ahead and put some of the basswood on top of the wing to protect it from the rubber bands. I epoxied it, so that's going to give it a little bit more strength too. Just like we did the bottom side. Alright, well, it's all finished, and it balanced out perfectly with that battery pack. You can use whatever battery pack you need for your radio. And all I did here on the front is just a piece of cardboard. Real simple. So thanks for watching the video. Hope you had a good build. Keep an eye out for the test flight. We're probably going to piggyback it on another airplane, launch it way up high. Hopefully we have better luck than the last time we tried that. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.